Hello, Jumbo, Karibu, welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. You guys, it's December 1st. Oh my God. Can you believe it? 24 more days until Christmas. So for all you guys who celebrate Christmas, Christmas is a time for, joy, for family to get together, for all that good food, the time to celebrate the birth of Jesus. This is my wrap-up video. I want to share with you guys all the books that I read for the month of November. Now, if you recall my TBR, I set myself to read 10 books. So I read a total of 9 books. So I just missed one, which I believe I'm just going to bring it into my December TBR. But most of these books, I already have a review on them. So I'm simply going to fly through them real quick just to give you a little reminder of what those books were about. Yeah? Shall we get into it? So, first thing, it is this book. It's a thriller. I think this is my second thriller suspense book that I read this whole year. And so far, I'm not too thrilled to continue into that genre. Okay? But like I said, I already have a full-blown review on this one. But essentially, it is the story of the golden couple, Matthew and Marissa. And not like any other couple, but they basically go see a counselor, a marriage therapist, because Marissa was unfaithful and she comes out to her husband about it. And they're seeking help to fix their marriage, right? But the only thing with this couple is that things are not as they seem. She says that it was only a one-night stand with the random guy at the gym. So the relationship is not what it seems. There's a lot of secrets that Marissa is not telling her husband, but the truth does come out. In the end, I just didn't like the end, but you discover the secrets and you discover that it was not just a one-night stand with a random person. The person with whom Marissa had slept with is no other than someone that they both know, and he will play a pivotal role in the unfolding of the rest of the events, as well as the counselor, who, by the way, is definitely not your typical therapist. She does have a different way of going about counseling her clients, and that's all one aspect that you discover about Avery. That's her name in the book. So if you want to know more about my thoughts on this book, as I said, I have a review on it, and I already have given my rating for that. The next one that I read is If Beale Street Could Talk. Now, I just have a few pages that I need to read, so I haven't finished it. But I hope to finish it tonight because I actually want to watch the movie, right? But it is by James Baldwin. This is my first book by James Baldwin. And so far, I'm actually enjoying the story. I was actually laughing at some part. Oh my gosh. So the story talks about Tish. She's 19 years old, and Fawny. Fawny is in prison right now. So that's how the story starts. She actually goes to see Fawny in prison. She's 19, he's 22, and it's just a young James Baldwin describes their love and the flourishing of that relationship, but also the tribulation that they are going through in America. It is during a time where there's still a lot of tension between blacks and whites, and you see that in the way he tells the story of how of the family of Tish and the family of Fawny. And their story actually began from a young age. Fawny and Tish have always been together. They grew up together. Their houses were not so far apart from each other. So they've been together for a long time. So it was almost kind of natural for them to gravitate towards each other and fall in love with each other. And what I love about their love is the way Fawny just talks to Tish. The way he at some point they're taking a walk and he walks with her and he brings her to his flat. And you can just imagine it's like a box. That's basically where he lives. But the way he describes that, you know, I'm a sculptor, I work with wood, but other than that, I'm a strong, you know, I'm a hard worker. I don't do needles, you know, I don't do none of that. I'll take care of you. And he's like, are you okay with that? You know, and she's like, yes. And their first, you know, sexual encounter was so beautiful. I was just like, oh, I love this story. I really love this story. But you also see the ugly side of America. You know, at some point, James Baldwin, I even highlighted the way he described America. It's true that I haven't seen much of other cities, only Philadelphia and Albany, but I swear that New York must be the ugliest and the dirtiest city in the world. It must have the ugliest buildings and the nastiest people. It's got to have the worst cops. If any place is worse, it's got to be so close to hell that you can smell the people frying. And come to think of it, that's exactly the smell of New York in the summertime. So apart from that, the poverty side that both families have to deal with, not so much Fonny's family. And come to think about it, Fonny's family is actually okay. They're sort of well off, but they don't get along with Tish's family. Light-skinned family, Tish's family is not so light, and the whole colorism thing does come into play. But outside of that, you also see that he's talking about like racism, and something happened with Fonny that brought him into prison, and she is fighting to get him out of that prison, but they don't have that much money. And the lawyer whom is supposed to get Fonny out of prison is actually white. So not really cool when you think about the reasons why he was even in the prison, yet you still need to go to the same people who put him in prison to seek help to get, you know, the man of your dreams out of prison. And by the way, Tish is pregnant as well. That's basically this beautiful story between this young couple in America, Black America, white America. But I loved it. So I mean, I can't tell you the end. Even if I had finished the end, I can't tell you the end. But I can't wait to see what happens to Fonny and Tish, because I need to watch them. Next, Long Shot. Long Shot. Hey. Yo, like I said, watch for the trigger warnings, because to all my people who are watching this book is heavy. Although it's a fiction story, she does talk about in the beginning how she actually spoke to real people who went through domestic violence, and that's how she was able to build so realistically the story surrounding Iris and August and Caleb. So I do have a full review where I'm gushing about this book, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I just want to tell you it's the story of Iris, Caleb, and August. It's not a triangle, but Caleb does play an important role till the end in this book, and August and Iris are the couple though, and it's a sports romance, my first sports romance. It was really, really beautiful. I love the way she explored the subject of domestic violence, but also around it, how she explored basketball, how she explored the relationship between August and Iris around basketball. You know, I love the certain basketball terms, and I recognize some terms because of my husband, who is so into basketball. So I was like, oh, she mentioned Lakers. Oh, she mentioned that. Long shot, 3-pointers, all of that stuff, you know. And I was like, I can see it. I can see it in the court, you know. So it's basically that story, but also the story of her and Caleb. They started okay, but soon after, the relationship just went downhill from like the beginning. There were signs that were there. I'm not saying she ignored the signs, but there were signs, you know. And she does talk about how at some point did she let it go so long, you know, the abuse. Could there have been a beginning where she could have just kind of stopped and not let it have gone for so long, you know? But other than that, the story between her and August is absolutely beautiful. It had me smiling, blushing. I really enjoyed the relationship between August and Iris. So if you haven't picked it up, please pick it up.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Next, it is The Water Dancer. I also have a review of this book, and I love this book. This is a slave narrative book, and it talks about Hiram Walker. It's essentially about Hiram, who's half white and half black, but he was still born into slavery. And it has a little bit of supernatural effect to it, because it does talk about conduction, and it talks about the Underground Railroad. And it also talks about all the slaves who have sought freedom and the struggles that they discover. But also it's a story about Hiram, who tasted freedom, but also had to go back into the household of the man who is his father, but also kept him in bondage, and also sold his mother onto a different plantation, you know. And it's him dealing with that, but also dealing with the memories that he's trying to suffocate or trying to forget, the memories of his mother, because it's too painful for him to recall the memories of his mom, and he's almost forgetting her. But throughout the book, you see that those memories are very significant and important for him to basically succeed at conduction. As I said, you want to hear more about it, I do have a review on it, but I did rate this book at least 4 star. Ta-Nehisi Coates, fantastic writer. I hope to read more books by him, but he did write the Marvel script for Black Panther, so you know, that's fantastic. But The Water Dancer, mwah. Next, I read The Wedding Date by Jasmine Ward. I think it was the what was the other book I read by her? My first book by her. By the Book. It was By the Book, which again was, I think it was a 3-star for me. It was cute. It was a cute story, you know. And this one, it's fake dating trope, and it's an interracial relationship. The girl is black, her name is Alexa, and Drew is white. And it just starts with him not having a date for his ex's wedding, where he's invited and he's the groom's man in that wedding. And Alexa is just a random girl that he meets in the elevator, and they strike a conversation, and from then the story kind of takes off, you know. And as I said, it's a fake dating trope. It's very cute. I enjoyed the relationship that blossomed between Drew and Alexa, as well as the fact that it wasn't too focused on like black struggle and all of that. You know, she works for a mayor, she's assistant to mayor, and she's trying to do great things for her community outside of that, you know, sexual and loving relationship that was developing between Drew. And I love their chemistry. I love the way she brought it in this relationship, the chemistry between Alexa and Drew. Truly cute story. So I also have a full review on this one. The next book, you guys, this book was suggested or recommended by Lex Reads, and I think she read this book twice, and she also has a vlog on it. And I watched her talk about this book. I mean, I got it, and that's why I got the book. But until I listened to the audio, which I recommend, you can still read it, but I recommend listening to the audio version. Narrator does a great job at telling the story. Even the African accent is absolutely amazing. But we follow the story of Abeo. She is brought into a religious shrine, okay? And that religious shrine, I was crying. I had goosebumps at some part of this book. She lives in Ukemba with her family, her mom, her dad, and a grandmother. What happens is that somehow the father is accused of a crime that he didn't commit, and because of that he is released from his job. So things start to go wrong from that time, and the grandmother, being the grandmother that she is, suggests to Wasik, who's the dad of Abeo, that he needs to bring Abeo into that religious shrine so that she could serve, I guess, their god, so the family can get better, so their things could get better again for the family. And one night, obviously Wasik is struggling with the decision, but he does do it. He actually brings Abeo to one of those religious shrines. Now, you guys, the whole book is about the terror, the atrocities, the rape, the things that happen in the shrine. And to think that those things were real I have not been affected by a book in a while, such as this one, because she was only 9 years old when she was brought into that shrine. And as soon as she got her cycle, but before she even got her cycle, there were other girls, and she could see how those other girls were treated. They had to work in the cornfield in the heat of Ukemba in West Africa for 12 hours. These are children, you guys, children, okay? And she had to see other girls who looked like her, but were pregnant. They weren't given food, and these kids were subjected to rape, to violence, to beatings, to all kinds of atrocities that you guys, it just rips your heart. Like, I had moments where I was just like, detach yourself from this story. Do not try to personalize, because I just couldn't imagine something like that happening to me as a kid, or even I can't even say it, you guys, but it's really, it broke my heart. But she does stay there, you guys. I thought at some point she'd get saved, because you discover that her mom does look for her, but only for a little short while. Then she stops. And then there's this aunt called Aunt Seraphine. And Aunt Seraphine has a secret that she keeps from Abeo. Everybody else knows, but she keeps it from Abeo. But what happens is that she stayed at that shrine for more than 10 years. And she is found by luck by this American who's half white, half black, and she went to Ukemba and sees what's going on and decides to make it her mission to help these young girls, and by creating a rehabilitation center where these girls can be brought and basically rehabilitated into society. And the things she hears and the conditions in which she finds these girls is just, it's unbelievable. I really like that part as well. And at some point Abeo does get found after more than 10 years. Can you imagine the trauma, you guys? Anyways, she does get discovered, and Aunt Seraphine lives in America. She hears about Abeo, and she brings Abeo to America. And before she brings Abeo to America, she does tell Abeo that what the secret is. And once Abeo finds the secret, she can't believe. And what we discover about Abeo is that when she's first taken out of the shrine, she's like 20 something, 22, but she has the mind of a 9-year-old, simply because she wanted to block out all that trauma that happened to her. And the way she answered, she was mute for a while when she was found by the American, I think her name was Tyler. It was Tyler. Yes, she was very mute because she couldn't talk, and she sleeps with her eyes open. Can you imagine? Well, anyway, so that's the story. She does go to America, where she does live with Aunt Seraphine, but at some point she leaves Aunt Seraphine to live with another family that also lived in Ukemba but moved to the United States. And from then on, there's a little ending that was really, really cute. I like that ending for her. To all those girls who didn't make it, I hope something for you. But I really enjoyed this book. Bernice McFadden, Praise Song for the Butterflies. I really love the fact that she's American, but she was able to really get into the African narration, the way she immersed herself in the African world. I love that she was able to describe certain food, certain people, certain dialect. She also one part that I want to mention, there was one part where Aunt Seraphine brings Abeo to the place where slaves were taken, like to the port where they were initially taken. It is one of my goals to go to Ghana and see one of those ports, but also the African cemetery. That's one goal or two goals that I want to do before I also pass on. Like Lex Reed said, please pick this book up. You will not be disappointed. Next, I read Jasmine Ward, Let Us Descend. I also have a full review on this book. This book was also hard to read because, again, it's also a slave narrative book. But it's essentially the story of Anis. She lives with her mom. At the beginning, the way the story starts is, her and her mom like fighting the ancient warrior ways. And you see that they're trying to hold on to the African heritage that her mom brought back to the United States. And unfortunately, a series of events happens where she's separated from her mom and she doesn't know what happens. And what will follow is basically Annis descending into hell, literally. And you follow her from the time that she's taken from the plantation all the way to the next plantation. And it is a series of events, of atrocities, of her marching into the forest, crossing rivers, swamps, all the way into the south, being subjected to body violation, being subjected to atrocious conditions, like thrown in a hole for nights, for days, not being fed. And it's her coming on top of that with resilience, but also it has a supernatural aspect to it. You see her talking to one of the spirits, because she does meet a few spirits along the way, but one of them is Asa, that accompanies her all the way to the next plantation. And it's her trying to seek help from this spirit, and this spirit telling her all these stories and sometimes lies. Sometimes she does come to the help of Annis. But as I said, essentially it's a nice story. It's a very short book to read, and I do have a full review if you want to hear more of my thoughts on this book. So it is Jasmine Ward, Let Us Descend. Next, I read Wake, my first comic book. I also have a review on it. So this book was written by Dr. Rebecca Hall. She's essentially a historian, and she goes into New York trying to find the story surrounding the revolts led by women. And this book just depicts her findings throughout the books that she will find in the libraries of New York and sometimes all the way to London. And she tells the story of these women who fought and were able to lead certain rebellion against their oppressors. But she was also finding a lot of roadblocks, because some of these stories were not always fully told, because it was never told by these women. You know, the stories were always told by the conquerors, and the conquered never had a chance to truly tell the story as it happened. So there was always some information missing, so she had to use an educated guess on why some of these women would lead some of the revolts. And throughout the book, you see her, how she goes all the way to Africa and tells you about the slaves, how they were brought into boats, and how during the 1600s, how it was fueled by the demands of the human cargo, what they went through, and how women weren't chained in those boats, and that's why they were able to lead those revolts, because the men were chained but the women were not considered dangerous, so they were able to roam free and hence lead some of those revolts. So it's a beautiful story, and it needed to be told because it's a story that can fall into the cracks, and that's why Dr. Hall brought this story to our attention. So as I said, I spoke fully on this as well in one of my videos. So Wake by Rebecca Hall, please pick it up if you haven't. This book was actually recommended by Tangible Reads. And lastly, it is 8 Rules of Love, Jay Shetty, How to Find It, Keep It, and Let It Go. I also have a review on this one, and I'm not going to fully go into this book, but it's a non-fiction book. It's essentially telling you about ways on how to, find love, not just with a partner, but with yourself, how to be alone, how to cultivate a spirit of self-control, of patience, how to stay in love, how to fight, how to manage conflicts, all of that, and how to love, humanity. So as I said, I have a full-length review, not detailing, but breaking down each rules of love in my video. So if you want to know more about my thoughts on this particular book, please follow that video, and I do recommend that you pick this book. I forgot to rate the 2 books, Praise Songs for the Butterflies by Bernice McFadden, 4.75 out of 5. And If Beale Could Talk by James Baldwin, I rate that one 3.75 out of 5. And those are the books that I read for the month of November. It was quite a great month, I must say. I really like the books that I picked, and I'm excited for the month of December. I hope to read more, but we'll probably stay within the 8 to 10 range. We shall see. So stay tuned for that video. All right, you guys, I hope you're spending a great holiday. I hope that you are surrounded by family and surrounded by love, and I will see you in my next video. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as I said, I'll see you in my next video. Ciao.